Somehow we have already made it to week 4. Months and months and months of waiting for the football season, and it seems like it goes in the blink of an eye. It just blows my mind every single year. But we are about to talk about week 4. We have a lot of the main teams on island games. I have Numi with me because Eric Beimfor is still really scared to take some L's. And what can you do? I can't force him to come on, but one day I will make sure that he's on here to take all of his best ball L's for the season. But until then, you have myself, you have Numi. Let's get it. What's up, Numi, and what's up, Felix? Thanks for jumping in the chat. How did your week 3 go?
Good. First we'll start by anyone hasn't seen any of the streams or anything I've been on this week. I do have a chip in my tooth. So if you're looking at this media like, what is up with that guy's ugly mug? Just got a chip in my tooth. So we'll just get that out of the way. But my week 3 went basically. So first I want to start out with, if you saw that T. Higgins catch, if you saw basically, and you saw the toes come down, and obviously we know the reasoning, it's not a catch, but if you saw that, or if you saw it or not, did you?
Yeah, of course I saw it.
So I got 5th in the underdog BR, and funny enough, I had T. Higgins on that team, less than it was like a 5-point something difference, and if that touchdown, which I like to think was a touchdown, a lot of people would like to think that would have been a great week 3, would have been a $50K on the underdog BR, but alas, we got 5th, and we'll have to take the awesome variance of whatever a catch is on the NFL. Still don't know what it is after watching last night. If you saw that game, can't understand what that is, but other than that, we had that fun sweat, and that was my week 3. So I sound bitter, but it's mainly just like it's mainly a little bitter because of Jamar Chase, and that non-review also cost me another first. So I'm never going to play a Bengals receiver again. Well, and if you do, it's Tyler Boyd, apparently.
The Jamar Chase one still angers me because that was one of my teams that was absolutely smashing in week 1. I was smart this weekend. I did not watch the majority of the Sunday night game. I did not watch the majority of the Monday night game. And I feel great about it. 2 months ago, I would have been like, maybe even a month ago, I would have been clamoring, I'll watch any NFL game. And then I saw that I watched like the first half of the first quarter, which is a real weird thing to say, for the Sunday night game. And I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm just not doing this. I'm not watching this offense. I'm not watching the 49ers. As far as my DFS stuff, I went away this weekend. I went literally to an island for the weekend and got back early Sunday morning. So I didn't play nearly as much as I normally would. So it was a bunch of single entry stuff. And my first player in on every single team was Devonta Smith this week. I was like, this is the guy I want for every single team. He's just way too underpriced based on he played the Monday night before. I love AJ Brown, but the price point is so high. I can do a lot more with Devonta Smith in the lineup, which sounds good. I still lost a little. I didn't get killed. I cashed in the double spy. But my running back situation went real bad for all my single entry teams, is what I'll say. I galaxy brained it for myself. I went with high priced running backs, which I just usually only do one at most. And I tried to jam Cook and Eckler, or like mix in an Eckler into some teams, and it ended up being a mistake.
Well, I think it was basically, if you didn't have Derrick Henry, it was kind of like a bust, or Devin Singletary. So there's a couple of, but for the high price guys, I'm pretty sure only Henry was the one that got like home with the score. But yeah, we'll take it. If you think about it, with the 57K entries, yeah, it's top or 0.01%. So we'll take it. We'll take that, and next time hopefully the variance goes in our way. But But yeah, Kyle Pitts is not dead, so we figured that
Kyle
out.
Pitts is not dead.
That's now it's Kyle Pitts isn't dead, and now it's here we go. Now it's all wheels up. He's got it. So now there's no more dead games, says everyone in the market. So yeah, it's been fun. Every week in the NFL with what Twitter and everything has to go.
So Jacob says, "Hey guys, new to the channel, do you guys take fantasy trade questions?" Not generally, but I can make an exception if I feel as though it's worthy of discussing. So throw it in the chat, and if we think that it's something that we can discuss, we'll definitely talk about it. So what we're going to talk about today for a little bit is the trends of the season. So things we thought we were getting right, what we're seeing within these teams. And Numi, is there anything that you're noticing that you're like super excited about, or that is like scaring you to death right now based on a team or specific players on a team?
I would say, honestly, my biggest for my best ball exposures, how big of a workhorse Leonard Fournette is, and how of a non-existent factor Rachaad White is. I mean, just non-existent. And I know it's only been whatever games, but it basically looks like if Leonard Fournette's playing, he's playing. And it's so obviously coming in, I think smart people, Hayden Winks, Josh started touting that, like this is Leonard Fournette. His usage is what we've got for him. But like earlier in the season, the shiny new toy, Fat Lenny. So it was Rachaad White. And so for trends, it's kind of like I happened to look at my best ball exposure and saw him in my top 10 for running backs. I was kind of like, oh, that kind of sucks. And I went through all those teams. That's just, a minor one. But that's like the first thing that immediately stuck out. Yeah, doggo. Honestly, you can't, if you don't have a dog on a fantasy football, you probably should just stop right there. So it's not worth it. But
Gotham usually makes himself a little scarce during streams, but occasionally he comes sauntering by.
It was you said trends, and he goes, let me speak my mind. Another thing is James Robinson. I think that's really it's been interesting to see how much of basically a workhorse role he's getting. I mean, ETN is, if he's getting anything, it's garbage time. I've been looking up, and Robinson's looked good. Like that's another thing. He's looked explosive and good. Like he popped off that 4th and 1, and he was just burst it and he was gone. So that's something that's been fun for my exposures. But yeah, that's a fun trend looking at that. I don't know. What have you noticed so far?
Well, the Jags are definitely a team I want to talk about as a whole on this thing. I famously was not on Travis Etienne this year. I thought people that were drafting him, were insane. They were chasing him into the 3rd round at some points, 4th round, and it just I get the idea behind it, but then you see the player profile, and we went over it a million times about like how he doesn't know how to catch a football, basically, and it's like he's not DeAndre Swift. Like that's just not who he is, and that's who people wanted him to be, right? So the flip side of this though is I was not like on James Robinson. I wasn't not drafting Travis Etienne because I was like, James Robinson's going to come in and crush. I thought Robinson was going to come in and take some of the workload, and that was part of the reason I was like hesitant on Etienne. But boy, were we just way off on what James Robinson was going to do. But rightfully so. The injury was scary. It was at the end of the year. So I completely understand why none of us were fully on James Robinson.
For me, it was just the price versus Akers. You know what I mean? Coming off like the same injury, it's like people were doing the same thing with Akers, chasing him up. And then Robinson, you were getting at one point in like the 180s before he slowly got, bumped up into I think it was 160 or something like that. But that was the thing for me. Like I knew the injury, but we're doing zero RB. He'd fit that. So like, yeah, I was all over Robinson, but yeah, sorry to interrupt there, but
no, you're good. And where I was going to go with this is exactly what Felix just said. He says, Sam, I was all about the Jags passing game. And so was I. I was on the Jags passing game, specifically Christian Kirk. You don't pay that money with the expectations of him not being the number 1 wide receiver, right? That's what we were saying all year. Well, specifically me, like I was like, they want this guy to be the number 1. They technically overpaid him to come be the number 1. And we had a coach that we saw work wonders with Carson Wentz. Doug Peterson made Carson Wentz like an MVP until he got hurt, right? Now we're going from Urban Meyer to Doug Peterson, and there's still going to be growing pains for Trevor Lawrence, but through 3 games, he's starting to look somewhat like what we thought he was going to be coming out of college, right?
Yep.
So the Jags, I always thought they were going to be like a middle of the road offense, which is a good thing. That's not a negative. That is a good thing based on where they were last year. And we were going to want to take shots on them. But just for me, it was shots on the passing game. Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, love Trevor Lawrence where he was getting drafted. He was a gigantic tier break for me when we were doing our drafts back then. It was like him and Tua in the same range, basically. Those 2 guys. And then a massive, massive cliff after that for me. So I love seeing what the Jags are doing, honestly. So I have a team every year where, like, I root for the Patriots. I root for the Eagles. Let's be real transparent here. I don't care as much as I used to about teams, like, in general. Like, I'm lucky enough to have seen everything I need to see from the teams that I enjoy, right? Like, I saw the Patriots win their Super Bowls. I saw the Eagles, every other sport. So now it's like I root for players specifically or, like, fun teams, as well as rooting for my team still. Last year, the Cardinals were the fun team to root for. I liked rooting for the Cardinals. This year, it's the Jags. The Jags are just a fun team now. Like, they are – I'm going to root for them to win almost every game that they play now.
I wish I could dissociate myself from my team.
No, I see the meltdowns. I see the meltdowns on Twitter.
Yeah, it'll never change. I mean, I've been through so much in my life as a Vikings fan. It's just the only thing I expect is disappointment. So, to that point, Trevor Lawrence is my highest exposed QB in Best Ball Mania.
Nice.
So I agree in lockstep with you there. I have more Zay Jones than Christian Kirk, although I do have Kirk, but I have more Jones at his cost, and then a lot of James Robinson, and see if I even have any Travis Etienne. I have 2 drafts with them, so I think it was mainly like, let's get a little bit of exposure in there. But yeah, I'm totally in lockstep with you in the Jags. They're of total stacks. It's gross. They're second to the Patriots for me.
Oh, so, no. Well, those stacks are dead now.
Yeah. Well, you don't need to talk about that though. So we got below that. We have Miami, Minnesota, KC. So, we'll take that.
If it makes you feel better, there was a time in my life that I owned more Minnesota Vikings gear than any other team. Just so you know, because Randall Cunningham went and played for the Vikings. So
okay. Gotcha.
The whole reason that I like football is because of Randall Cunningham. He was a revolutionary player 25 years before his time, before he should have been in the league. If that guy would have been in the league now, he would be the top QB off the board every single year. He is Lamar Jackson with an arm unlike any other quarterback. I think the dude even had a 78-yard punt in a game one time or something like that. But if you've I'm sure. So he was already getting banged up a lot when I was young watching him. So I was watching more highlights of him. If you've never watched a Randall Cunningham highlight package, make sure it's from the Eagles, right? But like from his Eagles years, go find that highlight package and you'll be like, dude, if this guy played today, he would be breaking fantasy football every single week. It was unbelievable to watch. And when he went to the Vikings, he still had a cannon. He didn't have to run, but he could still throw the ball. How do you think Randy Moss was catching 90-yard touchdown passes every week? It's because Randall Cunningham had an arm that could get the ball 70 yards downfield with no problem. So,
yeah, that was when I was a youngin'. So that was when I was a youngin' when he came to Minnesota. So
right. So yes, I'm a little older, but that's fine. It's no worries.
Yeah, my youngin' days were Dante Culpepper before he blew out his knee. So
yeah,
like that's what I vividly remember. So I literally have an email like that's what the DC roll on and this whole dart. Yeah. Yeah, love me some Dante's.
I still have my yellow Vikings jersey for Randy Moss like put away because I never saw another one back then. So,
yep.
All right. Speaking of yellow, which is a good transition, I want to talk about the Rams a bit because I think they're another interesting team. And what I see going on with this team is specifically an absolute backfield bias based off of week one. And people are going to continue to bury Cam Akers. And I think he's fine. Like, I don't think he's not going to like win the rushing title or anything like that. But people seem to be overlooking the fact that they were absolutely getting rocked by the Bills in week one, right? So game script wise, they're going to need their pass catching back on the field more. And I think people are just like focused on that first game rather than what's gone on the last two games with Cam Akers. And I think that's something we can be ahead of going forward. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, if you just look at the last two games, he's outsnapped Henderson 27-14. If we look at like I don't know if I can get targets up this quick, but yeah, so he's got 3-1. So I know it's not many targets, but I mean he's looking like he's getting the run right now, and they're trying to, like, after McVay immediately came out and just said he needs to be better, just point blank. They've been almost it's been clear in favor of Akers getting the run. So yeah, like it was funny in daily contest when everything after 1 week was everything after 1 week was Henderson, and then they come out and do that. It's just basically the recency bias. Yeah, recency bias is a hell of a drug. So, and if we're taking off trends, the last two games they've been seeing to go in Akers, but they could just be doing a mix of whatever's coming. Henderson looks to be, Henderson's slightly more efficient on the ground, but other than that, yeah, I don't really know what to make of this team. They seem to be trying to get Allen Robinson the ball, and he does not seem to be wanting to convert any of the opportunities. I think he has like one touchdown. So again, it looks to just be Cooper Kupp or bust for that offense. He just opens up so much. So yeah, it was tough for me with that team because I was going to my main exposure to that in best ball anything was always Higbee, just because of cost. So I don't know about you, but and I guess Henderson too, which kind of sucks for the last 2 weeks. But
well, both LA teams were the same for me because they were so hard to get because of cost. It was Higbee and it was Gerald Everett, right? For exposure wise for the Chargers or the Rams. Yeah, I think when you're playing the LA Rams backfield, I think it's going to be the easiest cut and dry situation. If you think it's going to be a game that they're going to be either behind or in a shootout, it's probably Henderson. And if you think it's games that they're just going to dog walk people, you play Akers. Like it's that easy, I think, with the LA Rams for the most part going forward. I think A-Rob's done, though. I mean, he's going to have his games here and there. And the funny thing is it's going to be the reverse of the Akers thing. So as soon as A-Rob has a game, if he goes out there and scores a touchdown and has 90 yards, people are going to be like, all right, he finally knows the offense. He's finally back. But this offense is Cooper Kupp, and it's been Higbee in the passing game as well. So I'm not going to fall for the A-Rob thing. And DFS stuff, he's going to have to fall to insanely reasonable prices for me to even consider playing him.
Yeah, I mean, Skoranek has more higher target share, more targets on the season, more receptions on the season. Like, he just doesn't have the touchdown. So, if Ben Skoranek is getting in there, and then Van Jefferson is supposedly coming back soon, yeah, I don't know about Allen Robinson. It's tough. If we're talking a weekly game, it's got to be basically straight leverage play or that. So, but off of, I think I might have fell into a little bit of the A-Rob. Like, you don't want to miss out. Like, and it was for me, I took A-Rob on a lot of teams that I had Jefferson and Chase. So it's basically kind of leverage off Kupp. So that was just kind of how I was taking those teams. And it's, fine with the process, in theory, you're signing with the Super Bowl, like defending Super Bowl champs. Everyone's calling you dust. Like, you've seen what we did last year. Like, it's not a bad play. So I'm not mad at the result, but yeah, he does not look great through 3 weeks at all.
Real quick, Al is asking, what's a realistic percentage of teams to advance the playoffs with 150 teams? Off the top of my head, I believe it's 16%. You should be advancing at like a 16% rate. So I don't remember the exact number for that, but That's what you're looking for. 16% is average, and then above that is moving on, if I remember. Does that sound right?
I think I didn't it go by the weeks in the season. I thought that's how you're supposed to calculate it.
Could be that too.
I thought it was that. I thought it's what I think that's why it was 16%. I saw I was inverted talking about it, and then yeah, okay, 16 by that. So I'm way wrong, but I was inverted was talking about it. Then he also said he also said, yeah, if anything over 0 for me, I'll be happy. I'm like, fair enough. That's kind of it's fair enough. So
well, it also depends on how you play best ball too, right?
yeah.
Because if you smooth out your exposures, that 16% is probably going to be a little easier to hit. But if you're taking stands, you're either probably going to be a bit over that 16% or a bit under. I think last time I checked, I was advancing like 25% of my teams currently. So but that's not going to hold. Like that's either going to go up or down. It's week 3.
Yeah.
So
that's like checking the MLB season basically after like not even a month. It'd be like, look at guys, I'm in first by all this, and then midway, all your guys are hurt, and half your pitchers have Tommy John. So that's.
So I just looked up my exposure to Allen Robinson and Best Ball Mania, and I have 3%. And this goes back to the discussion I was having, I believe 2 weeks ago with Bime4. And it's like, why do I even have 3% of Allen Robinson? Clearly, I didn't like Allen Robinson, right? So why wasn't I hammering the guys that I actually liked in that range instead of wasting those 5 teams with him on it? And that could go both ways. You could miss on a guy too. But if I'm going to miss, I'd rather just miss big personally. That's how I've always been with gambling and fantasy teams and anything like that. I'd rather take big swings in spots that I feel good about. So, I mean, those are things you can look at. Some other teams. Let's talk about the Denver Broncos. Because
do we have to?
Yeah, because this is a team that we were relatively excited about in the preseason. They had Russ coming over. He wasn't going to be shackled by Pete Carroll anymore. And I think this is kind of a tale of 2 teams right now where we see that the Seahawks are throwing a bunch more than we thought they were going to be. I think they're throwing at like 64, 65% right now. And this is not what they would have done with Russell Wilson behind the helm. So were they cognizant of the fact that they kind of had to leash him a little bit more? And dare I say, God, it makes me want to vomit. Is Pete Carroll a little bit smarter than we give him credit for at times?
Oh God. I think it's, I mean, if I was high on Russ coming over, I mean, I thought with all the weapons, I don't think it's Pete Carroll. Like, I think Nathaniel Hackett is really playing a big factor in this. The fact that he just doesn't know what he's doing. That's clear. We have to bring in a senior
timekeeper.
Yeah, like basically like making sure he's doing everything right. And then I saw a tweet where basically he was the guy advocated for a punt on something. It was just, and then that's a mess. So I think the Broncos are just a mess. I looked at like Russ's like passing, and he's struggling so much over the middle versus just going out. I mean, if you watched that game, which you didn't, it was god awful in the fact that it was basically Russell drops back and then would just pass to either someone behind the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage. There was like very few throws. Obviously there was probably, more, but there was very few throws that looked like where the ball's actually going down the field. They'd have to have a good play and then to go right back to the same thing over and over again. It would just be run on first down. All right, now we have 2nd and 7. Let's pass and do this. Yeah. That offense is it's just tough. It could be like them again, having a hard time just exactly that. Basically, Russ isn't playing the scheme that he's used to. He wants his team to play. And there's one thing that I was listening to. It's like if we remember a lot of Russell Wilson's good plays, it's him basically breaking free and making these giant playground type plays. And then he just launches one down the field, and it's him being heroics. And that's when Russ is doing these great plays. Yes, he has the drop backs. And he'll launch one to Tyler Lockett back in the day. But like a lot of the things that we remember, it's Russ just creating this magic, doing the spin out, doing a lot with his legs and making it. Here, there's nothing of that. Like he's not doing any of that magic, and it's just the offense just looks bleh. And like I hope that they can turn it around. You know what I mean? Like you have to get comfortable and you have to get used to things. So in 10 weeks, like you know what I mean? If this is it's just things are starting to become a little more sticky, and we're starting to get a little more substance to what's going on after we're getting more weeks into this. So if this continues to be a trend, it's kind of like sinking ship. But like in week 10 or 12, you know, somewhere around there, we could be laughing at this. It could be the Aaron Rodgers relax without saying it, and all of a sudden they're because I think aren't they 2-1 or 1-2? Like they're still.
Yeah, I think they're 2-1.
They're 2-1. So they could be
the lead
figuring
of their
out.
division.
Yeah, so they're in the lead of their division. Not that matters for us, but
right,
they could still be in the lead of their division and then starting to catch fire, and Russ is starting to cook. So, I mean, if you want to bet on talent and what we've seen, it's like, well, we can't do anything when in terms of best ball. Our lineups are locked, but like,
right.
In DFS and dailies or anything like that, they're being so underpriced that it's just like, yeah, they're going to explode one of these times, and we're finally going to be like, oh, there it is. You know what I mean? Like that's what we expected. Russ is going to have his 3-4 touchdown game, 300 yards per like Russ game. So I don't know. It's been a really tough watch, especially that Sunday night game. So
I can't believe you all fell for it and watched that game. I knew after like punt 6 by a minute with 10 minutes remaining in the first quarter that it's time for me to go to bed. I'm not dealing with this. Yeah, I think so. Just to give like my little Nostradamus hat, this is the Javonte Williams 2-touchdown week this Sunday. I'm calling it now. We're gonna get the Javonte Williams explosion game this week, so be on the lookout for that. I do think it's Hackett. I do think it's got a lot to do with Hackett. He feels lost, and you can feel this with sorry about that. You can feel this with these head coaches sometimes. Tom Sula with the 49ers that year, that he was a lame duck coach anyways, felt the same exact way. So what we should do is transition over to the other side of this game and talk about the 49ers as well, because there is an entire different set of messes going on that team. And who saw the video of Jimmy Garoppolo telling Mike Shanahan that all of his plays suck? They found that video. I'm not sure if you've seen it. Look it up on Twitter. So they have him on camera, like walking to
Mike
the side.
Or Kyle? Like the coach, like Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, Kyle.
Okay,
Shanahan.
I was like, whoa. When did they ever have?
No, on Mike. Sorry, on like they caught him like.
Got you.
Like mouthing it, so he wasn't actually.
I'm gonna put this in my search bar just so I can. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. So it's basically he's walking to the sideline, and they've translated it by his lips. It's like all of your plays suck, and it's clear that that's what he's saying. It's amazing. So look that up. Maybe when you start talking, I'll try to pull it up.
I see it right here. Yeah, it's yep. Wow.
Yes. So, and I
funny.
think so. Nez is about to. This was the point I was about to make. Shanny is such a fake sharp. I believe Jimmy. I've never been a Garoppolo guy, and I still don't think he's good. And I never thought Trey Lance was good, but I think Shanahan might be the biggest fake sharp coach that's in the entire world. We shit on Cliff Kingsbury because he sucks. Shanahan lost 2 Super Bowls because he's an idiot. His offense has never been that good in the passing game. He's set up some decent running game attacks for sure, but that team's never moved the ball through the air like on any type of like top 10 basis. I mean, maybe a 10th, and someone wants to call me out because they finished 10th or something and passing at some point, whatever. But the eye test, just look at the eye test with the 49ers over the past 5 years. And yeah, we blamed Garoppolo on a lot of it, but I think Shanahan just sucks. And he is not a good coach. He's not a good game manager. We've seen that in the past. Hell, I mean, thank God for me, but he was the guy who blew the Super Bowl against the Patriots, right? Like the Patriots should have never won that game. And this guy is an idiot. And I'm pretty sure that when he blew the one against the Chiefs with the 49ers, he said, like, there's some report or something, if I remember correctly, goes, "Oh God, not again," or something like that, because he blew that game. I think Shanahan's the biggest problem in San Francisco.
Excuse me. Yeah. It's Shanny's been tough because like you always have that feeling, and he just looks kind of like he looks somewhat lost up there sometimes when they pan to him and he's just doing his like and he just looks he looks sharp, but sometimes he literally just looks like he's just lost. And yeah, obviously I'm not going to put all the blame on Shanny because it's Jimmy Garoppolo, and we know what Jimmy Garoppolo can and cannot offer. But yeah, you're onto something there, and that offense. I mean, it basically that offense is Debo. It's Debo or bust. Yes, there's George Kittle, but I mean, they're gonna do everything they can to work it through Debo, and especially now that they have. Oh yeah, you want to? You tell each other how all of his plays suck.
So I want to play the Jimmy Garoppolo thing. So just anyone that's watching. So we are watching. All of your players suck. All of your plays. Sorry, not all your players. It clear as day. I don't know if anyone else caught that, but yeah, it is clear as day.
Yeah, I will say I agree with again. Mike brings up a great point. Like we watching the game, like this, we cannot be putting all of the blame on Kyle because again, this is like, and to me, it's still more Jimmy. But yeah, I think Kyle gets set. I mean, again, he's way more of an offensive or NFL mind than me. He's Kyle Shanahan. He has a job. But, like, sometimes his play calling just seems like he gets set and he doesn't deviate. And he just continues to run the same play calls, or, like, the same scheme, and he doesn't go anything off.
Yeah, I mean, nepotism's great. Nepotism is a great thing whenever your father was a head coach, to be honest. So there are things that can be true. Trey Lance can suck. Jimmy Garoppolo can suck, and Shanahan can suck. Those can all be true.
Oh, yeah.
Every single one of those can be true, and I believe all three of those are. And I think you're starting to see a little bit of it come through. Now, he has tremendous talent on that team, and talent is always going to bail out coaching for the most part until it doesn't in key situations. But over the course of a long season, talent's going to prevail and win you football games. So I just think that we give Shanahan too much of a pass, to be perfectly honest. I don't, and it just, I also think that as a fantasy community, we want the 49ers to be such a thing every year. Like I heard people touting them as like one of the number one offenses last year. They've been touting them as one of the number one offenses this year, and people want it because they have talented players. And that might be the Broncos thing this year too. Time will tell on them. But I think we do it with the 49ers every year. And I'm not sure we're going to have more than one or two players that are fantasy relevant every year on the 49ers that are even worth talking about. And we were talking about them sustaining 3 to 4 to 5 people in that offense this year. And I just don't know if that's ever a possibility in Shanahan's offense.
Yeah, if we want to sustain anyone, I hope that it's Brandon Ayuk. He's my highest exposed player in best ball. So tough. Yeah. Tough right now for me and my Ayuk exposure, but yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree with you. I was high on their offense. Granted, it was Trey Lance, and none of it was Jimmy, but yeah, it's going to be tough. I think they'll figure it out, and their defense will keep them in games enough where their offense just has to be just good enough to get them over the hump. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I don't see them going to the playoffs. I mean, maybe with the NFC's weak, so they could easily squeak in with the amount of teams in there. But yeah.
All right, let's move on. Do you want to talk about a good team or do you want to talk about a bad team?
We'll do bad.
All right, let's talk.
Do another bad.
Let's talk about the Saints.
Oh,
where do you think? Like this team, I was already down on preseason. Like I did not want to touch the Saints. I didn't want Kamara at ADP, no matter where it was, 4th round, 1st round, 2nd round. I didn't want to touch the Saints because I thought they were going to be bad. Now, perhaps I have a little bit of run good on this because Winston is playing with 4 fractures in his back. And we're talking about a guy that's already, like we know who Jameis Winston is. And he's showing that even more so currently. And it's like they're trying to keep him in check by not letting him unleash it as much as he would in Tampa, yada, 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 same old thing. But there is nothing redeemable on this team right now. And I think people had them a little higher than they should have been in the preseason.
Yeah, I'll take this take the stand. I was on Kamara. I'm holding out hope that Jameis is back somehow. He doesn't allow him to play for a certain amount, and maybe we get Andy Dalton, the check down king. That's not that he is, but that we get that. But I will say, I mean, Olave's looked great.
Yeah, I'll give Nez this. He does look like an NFL wide receiver.
I'm gonna have to back out and see how okay. So that was the first comment in a while. Oh yeah, well that's crazy because I did not see that comment. Yeah, Olave looks great. He's just basically doing effort. Olave's down there somewhere, but he's making plays and he looks good. So I mean,
I'll give you guys Olave for sure. He does look good.
Yeah, and I mean, I was kind of out on Thomas because I just didn't know that injury. I mean, he's there, and I was a little more in on Landry. But yeah, I'll take the L. I was on Kamara. He hasn't been great so far. He just does not. I mean, he's not getting the role, anything close to the role that he was. And that's what made him so valuable. So I should have definitely just considered, Jameis Winston is his quarterback and he is a gunslinger. So he does not want to check down to Alvin Kamara 10 times a game. So yeah, that's my blinds. That's definitely my blinders going into the season was, it's Alvin Kamara in the third round. Like, look what we're getting. But yeah, the Saints have been tough. I'm hoping this week that they're even more tough because they play my Vikes. So, yeah, I'll take the L. I don't know what else to say on Kamara. Like, I'll take the L, and all I can hope for is Andy Dalton, and we just start getting 10 targets a game.
Oh, God. Andy Dalton's going to be rough, too. But, yes, for Kamara.
Oh, I know. Not that I'm not touting Andy Dalton as an upgrade. Specifically, yep. I'm hoping he's just an upgrade to maybe Kamara getting a little more volume. That's the only thing I'm touting. Andy Dalton, not an upgrade.
I mean, it's got to tell you something that they're still playing Jameis Winston with 4 fractures in his back instead of running Andy Dalton out there. Like, to me, that is,
it tells me a lot.
letting people know, like, before the game, like, this dude has 4 fractures in his back, and you're letting teams that you're playing know. I mean, I know you got to be transparent about injuries and stuff, but that is insanity to me. I mean, clearly it's not. It sounds worse than it probably is. Yeah. One of those things, but geez. All right, let's talk about a fun offense. Let's talk about the Eagles. Because I think everyone thought they were going to be good, but I still think there was a lot of reservations on this team. And I would say through 3 weeks, any reservations you had about this offense should be completely put to bed at this point. You have A.J. Brown. I think he looks better than he's ever looked, right? No bias on this, like, because he's in an Eagles uniform, but he just looks like they are feeding him, and he looks as grown as he did in these games with the Titans. Like, he had these games with the Titans where he would go off, but he looks like that every week right now for the most part, right? And they can still get the ball to Goddard. Jalen Hurts is the guy that looks – it's amazing because Jalen Hurts has flipped with Kyler Murray from last year, in my opinion. So last year, Jalen Hurts was a good fantasy play because you were like, he's probably going to get you 20, but his ceiling was almost like 23. Yeah. It was this weird thing with him. And Kyler could get you 20, but he could have also got you 40 last year. This year, Jalen Hurts can get you 40, no problem. Kyler is going to get you close to 20 every week, but there's no ceiling outcome, it feels like, for him at this moment, which that can absolutely change going forward when he gets some key pieces back to the offense. But I think the biggest takeaway for me is Hurts looks good throwing the football, and this offense is wheels up for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think a lot of people's biggest thing was like, could this, when it came to these weapons, was like, which one is going to be it? Because they didn't think Jalen Hurts, and maybe I'll probably, I didn't know if he was going to do this, but they didn't think that he could have 2 pass catchers be basically almost that alpha kind of role. And we've seen now A.J. Brown in that week 1, and now Devonta Smith, and now basically the last 2 weeks, and they're both getting a 27% target share or higher. I mean, yeah, Jalen Hurts looks like the guy, and not only the guy, he can sustain 2 pass catchers per week with his throw. That was the big things. Like, will Jalen Hurts make that step throwing? Yes, clearly. He's made it known he can make that step throwing, and he can support this cast. So I think, like right now, that end of that third, because AJ Brown was going in the second to third, and a lot of the time he was going to that second, third pick. Then you also have Devonta Smith, who looking like a clear smash at the moment. Yeah, after 3, yes. And then the only thing that I never was fully in on was that backfield. Not that it's bad. It's just Jalen Hurts as a runner eats into them so much that I was always on Jalen Hurts as a passer. Like I loved Goddard, and I love Devonta Smith, and I love AJ Brown. Like I was high on them overall, and they look like after 3 weeks they look like the team to beat in the NFC.
Yeah, and Mike brings up, will any running back ever be usable though?
Yeah,
and that's kind of
pick one. I mean,
exactly what you said at the end there. That's why I was taking Gainwell because of the price on him, and not taking Miles Sanders because exactly what you said. Jalen Hurts is gonna eat into all that. I mean, we see this with offenses like this, that the running back you're losing value on those running backs because the quarterback is going to take over a lot of that goal line work.
It is clear it's Miles Sanders as the guy, though, as the running back. Like in attempts and everything, even receptions, he has more than Kenny Gainwell. So, I mean, he's the guy. It's just a matter of how much does Jalen Hurts eat into that. And it's as of right now. But through the 3 games, it's been Miles Sanders, the 222 rush yards to 33 and 29. I mean, more catches than any of the guys out there. It's literally just a matter of how much will Jalen Hurts eat into that. And if he's slinging the rock as much as he's doing right now, that's almost just helping spree up Miles Sanders. So, like, it's going to be a very hard time being able to do their read option, or basically their zone read, where you can hand off, you can throw, you can run the jet. Like, that offense is scary, and their defense is pretty good too, as we saw as Slay shut down JJ and. Who they just play last week? The Commanders. Yeah, the first points the Commanders had was a safety, so that'll tell you something.
Yeah, very few weaknesses on that team right now overall. I mean, I don't think they have a single weakness on the offensive side of the ball. As much as I'm not fully in on Miles Sanders, that Sanders, Gainwell, even Boston Scott tandem is kind of what you need in the NFL now. You don't need prime Derrick Henry. Those guys just don't win you championships, and at the moment. So I love the way the Eagles are set up going forward. Miami, we need to talk about the Dolphins, and shockingly, they're 3-0 right now, which is crazy. That game against the Bills angered me tremendously because I had money line the Bills on a parlay. So I was not happy.
Pour one out.
Yeah, so that wasn't fun. But I think that Tua looks good. I mean, how can you not say he looks good? Maybe McDaniel was the real answer all along to the San Francisco stuff, and he might have been getting held back a little bit on what he wanted to do. So now that he's fully unleashed, we can kind of see what kind of offenses he really wanted to run.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the videos that Eric posted about McDaniel on Twitter, which if you haven't seen them, they're amazing. About I forget who it was talking. I'm gonna butcher the name, so I don't even know. I think
it was Hawkins.
Yeah, Hawkins. He was talking about his time with McDaniel, and that was a great video, an insight into McDaniel. And then basically I saw him like getting Tyreek Hill, just the way his brain works. He's awesome. I'm a stan already for him. I'll victory lap this over 3 weeks. Like if I can, I'll take the L on New England. Shouldn't have been stacking them. My next highest are Jacksonville, Miami, tied as my 2 teams throughout. Even just, this is Best Ball Mania. If we want to go through all tournaments, it's Jalen Waddle and Tua, because I was just hammering them nonstop. So I was big on the Dolphins. I didn't see Tyreek Hill coming there eating into any of that. I was like fins up. I was fins up the entire offseason. I loved Raheem Mostert. I loved his price coming in. We already talked about that before. Sucks Chase Edmonds got there, yes, but I mean, he literally got there with his 2 touchdowns, so congrats. But yeah, I love the Dolphins. They're kind of now. Like, if you want me to basically do the U and pick a team that you now fall in love with, it's going to be the Dolphins. Like, I just think there's so much fun. McDaniel's just an awesome character. He's an awesome guy. He's so fun to root for. So yeah, I love it. I love the Finns. That's all I can say. I'm so excited for them, especially with all the exposure that I have on them. So hopefully they can keep it going.
I wish I did have more Miami exposure because I did like Waddle and I did like Hill, and I even like Tua at the price, like because we brought it up earlier. There was like that last little tier before a gigantic break, which was Tua and Trevor Lawrence. I just went Trevor Lawrence. You made me want to see what teams I have the most stacks of. Kansas City was going to be obvious for me that I
really?
have. Yeah,
the guy counting Patty Mahomes all offseason, I couldn't know.
Yeah,
that's a shock.
My next three are Philly, Buffalo, Jacksonville, though. So
ooh, that's beautiful.
So
hey, so one thing that I was always in on, I was in lockstep with you, and I'm just hoping that something breaks. You know, that the play was always basically we need someone to go down or for a team to need a trade for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sitting here with all these Dearness Johnson takes right now, and I'm just like, come on, man. Or come on, Browns. Do something. Just do something with him. Was he a flash in the pan? Was he not? Because when we saw him play, like we know why we were drafting him. Like,
mm-hmm.
And I right now I'm just kind of like he's basically Will Fuller, except we actually know where he is. So we actually know where Dearness is, but we're just sitting there and holding bags.
Yeah, but we knew the thesis of the play the entire time, right? You were getting him in the 18th round.
Yep.
You knew that Kareem Hunt and Chubb were in front of him.
Yep.
But what we know is if Hunt or Chubb goes down, either one of them, which one of them will go down for a few games this year. It's like an anomaly if they don't. It's not because of who they are. It's just because the way the NFL works, like running backs just drop, that we are going to get usable weeks because they're not going to give one of them the lion's share of the work in terms of like 90%. They're going to let Dearness run some, right? Or somebody major might get hurt. You know, like somebody might go down and Dearness still gets traded or Kareem Hunt still gets traded. We knew what the outs were for Dearness Johnson. I'm not worried about it.
See, this is what I needed. I just needed consolidation because I'm just sitting here and I'm like, for another brother that had as much Dearness as me, it's sitting there. It's tough to look at, but yeah, no. We just had to talk about it as a Dearness touter yourself. You know what I mean?
We knew what some of the outcomes were for this. I mean, we were hoping for the trade in the preseason. Obviously, that would have been the absolute nuts for sure. But I'm not shocked that that they didn't trade one of them based on they're waiting to get Deshaun Watson in week 11 or 12 or whatever it is, and they just wanted to keep that backfield as intact and just win games that way for now. Mm-hmm. But make no mistake, if somebody goes down on a viable contender, hell, it might be Miles Sanders. If Miles Sanders goes down, the Eagles might be like, hey, what can we trade to get Kareem Hunt over here or something like that? So
Trey Sermon, man. No, I'm just kidding.
So don't be shocked if something like that happens. Your Dolphins, if Chase Edmonds goes down, yeah, we like Raheem Mostert, right? But what if they added Kareem Hunt to that team? So, or even Dearness Johnson. I think Hunt's the one that would be more likely to be traded.
Exactly.
Still. But I'm fine with that for Dearness Johnson. Give me 35% of the snaps with an 18th round guy who might be able to pop two off in a game here and there. Yeah, it's fine. We knew what the thesis of the play was with Dearness.
Come week 17, when you have two teams in the final and they both have Dearness, and that's the 1 week he does anything. Right. He'll sit there and go, that was the thesis. The whole time, that was the play, everyone.
Right. I'm trying to think of who it was. We had a guy, Quez Watkins the other night. So, like, if you took Quez Watkins in the 18th round, you already got what you wanted out of him in the game against the Vikings, right? He had that game where he popped off that long touchdown. If he does it one more time this year, then great. But you never draft these 18th rounders looking to get, especially in the beginning of the year, like you're not looking for usable weeks. If your 18th rounders are giving you usable weeks in the beginning of the season, then the rest of your team might be garbage and it might not matter anyways. If you missed on your 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, your team's probably dead. So Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's exceptions to this, of course, but you know what I mean? But in
Yep.
general, that's what we're looking for from those guys, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. And I don't think there's been the major injuries as much this year in the backfield like there normally is. Now there's been injuries for sure, but we're starting to see it. DeAndre Swift's about to go out for 2 games, probably.
Yep.
So you're going to start seeing it happen. Yeah. So I hopefully that quells your fears of Dearness Johnson.
Yeah. I just figured we're talking trends. We might as well talk about the guy that has been inactive for most of the time.
This never bothers me either, though. So, like they're saying, they thought there was an RB ahead of Dearness. Now he was inactive week 1. Not sure about the other weeks. We see this time and time again where they have this third guy that they make inactive on game day, but when one of them goes down, that guy that was inactive is the next guy up, even though he wasn't active. It's not. I think we overreact to that stuff sometimes too much. I mean, it's viable, and you got to like kind of read the tea leaves and all that stuff, but to me, it means nothing right now. I don't care. Like, I literally don't care right now. 18th round pick. We know what he can be. I'm not sweating it too much. Is there any other team that like leaps off the page to you that you're either like overly excited about or scared to death of? Let's go. Let's talk about the Vikings. Are you worried about the Vikings right now?
No, not worried at all.
There's no reason to be.
I'm not worried at all. I mean, everyone's Dalvin. I mean, Dalvin Cook's already got his injury, so It's been Alexander Madison's already been there for you. No, I'm not scared about Justin at all. I mean, after like watching the entire games and all that, no. I mean, we always knew that. That's why people were drafting Thielen and Osborne, because like you can't just, you know what I mean. We were hoping Jefferson was going to be cut, but we knew that. In my mind, they're little better weapons, and ancillary weapons too. I mean, we see Robinson, but Thielen isn't as dusty. I never thought he was, the whole old Thielen dustiness. Like, he'll still get you the red zone touchdowns. Like, he's literally their first look in the red zone. It's over anyone or anything. It's like Thielen. What's the play we have designed for Thielen? So yeah, I'm not worried about that team at all. JJ will have his weeks. You know what I mean? Jamar Chase has already had his duds. So yeah, it's the same thing as like, I mean, we could talk about the Bengals. That would be honestly, they've now rebounded after 2. Basically, if it was going to be the same week as they had the Jets to rebound, if they did the same thing, what they did in the first 2 weeks of the Jets, it would be like basically the panic button is being pressed on these Bengals. Like, the line is terrible. What's happening? Blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, they were my lock last week. Like,
yeah,
they were the easy smash to me to not only win, but to cover any bet that you were making. The Bengals it didn't go down the way I wanted it to go down, particularly in terms of the way the scores were happening.
Yeah.
I had a lot of Chase. I had a lot of Mixon last week. But whatever. The Bengals, they're going to be fine. They're going to figure it out.
Exactly.
And we go through this every year. One of the weird traditions in the NFL is the losing team in the Super Bowl has this crazy Super Bowl hangover. And we should have known that it was coming with the Bengals. I didn't think it was, but it did happen. So I think they're going to be fine going forward. I don't think they're going to be. I don't think they've ever been what people think they are, though. Right? They have always wanted to run the football. Well, I think we talked about this in the offseason. If they can run, they're going to run. They don't want to sling the ball 50 or 60 times. And I think people misconstrue this team as like just this like absolute gun show team, and they're just kind of not. Maybe they should be, but that's not their complete style, right?
Yeah, I mean, with 3 of their skill positions going in the first 2 rounds, like, yeah, the market was heavy on the Bengals offense, so they expected it to be that gunslinging team, along with Mixon getting the same work as last year in the passing game and everything. So that was
Yep. But I think they're going to be fine going forward. They're still going to be a top half offense. They'll be floating right around that top 10 spot probably. They could even work their way up a little bit more, but I'm not worried about the Bengals as a whole.
Nope.
In general, they'll be fine. They're going to have some explosion games coming up too, most likely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about who they played though. I like what I see from the Jets and some of their skill position players, specifically Garrett Wilson, and Breece Hall is starting to come on. I wasn't big on Breece Hall, not because I didn't believe on his talent or anything like that. I just was going other ways in the 4th round of best ball drafts, but there was no knock on him. I just thought he was going a little too high, and it's something I could be wrong on.
Yeah, my highest exposed Jet is my 5th exposed player, and that's Elijah Moore. So, a little bit of a bummer, but I expect them to be I expect the Garrett Wilson Moore tandem to be fine. I have a lot of Garrett Wilson as well. I thought that was just a smash pick there. I was always Michael Carter over Breece Hall just for price. So that's what I will say. I was team Mikey Carter. I don't think I have much Breece if I have Henry. I have 2 drafts with Breece. So.
Oh, well, yeah. My 6th highest exposed player is Garrett Wilson at 26%. And that was just because talent based on where he was getting drafted. If he was going a little bit higher, I can promise you that number would have been maybe cut in half. But it was where he was going. I liked it. But yeah, I think I'm fine with all of the Jets. I thought they would be a halfway decent offense. I thought you could one off them. I didn't want to stack them though. Like my Zach Wilson stacks are low, and clearly no one was taking Flacco, except for the one draft that I was in that the guy took Flacco in the 1st round. So.
I know one thing. It doesn't wasn't Felix in the chat? Doesn't he a Zach Wilson?
He is a big Zach Wilson guy.
Yeah, he has a lot. So I think he was yeah.
Yeah.
Has a better connection with Moore. Well, let's hope. Let's hope, Felix. That would help out a lot because it's been all Garrett Wilson so far.
Right. All right. Let's do a final thoughts. And do you have anybody? It's very early in the week. It's only Tuesday. As you looked ahead to the schedule this coming week, who are you looking at either for battle royals or DFS this week?
Well, like I said to you before the show, like this slate is disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Bengals and Dolphins on an island game. We have the Vikings and Saints in London on a morning game. Chiefs and Bucks Sunday night. Rams, 49ers Monday night. So if you just literally go the skill positions and the quarterbacks on those teams, like the battle royale drafts, you're literally looking at Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts as your top 3. And then it's like Mark Andrews and then Stephon Diggs. Like it's gross. So honestly, like as gross as it sounds, I've been gravitating so hard to that Browns and Falcons game, just going on Vegas totals along with the Lions and Seahawks. So I've just been playing the ownership leverage game. So if you just want the quick battle royale call, like they're disgusting. They're really hard. This slate is just so tough. I mean, you don't have all the star players from the teams. You can literally start naming them yourself. I don't have to do that. But yeah, it's you're gonna have to figure out if you're playing at volume. You'll have to make a stand on basically the main game, which is the Bills and Ravens. That's the game. And you have all of those guys going so high in the drafts that it's impossible to mega onslaught them in the battle royale drafts like a typical DFS. You just don't have the option. So yeah, it's interesting. Tune in. We'll be doing a show. We'll be doing our battle royale show with Eric tomorrow night, and then we always do our streams over at Badge Bros. Check us out there. Yeah, we're always talking battle royale and diving deep into the weeds. So I know, yeah. It's been awesome. So
6,800 on DraftKings. I said it earlier. Javonte Williams gets 2 touchdowns this week against the Raiders.
He's free. He's free on these drafts. So go ahead and that's just one thing I'll say is the show we did today with Mark Garcia from NBC Sports and 1 Week Season. He made a great point, and it's like if you just put everyone in terms of DFS salary, like Kyler Murray's the 4th highest player in DFS or in for DraftKings salary. He's going way after these top 3 quarterbacks, the first 3 picks in the draft. So it's like you're getting a pay up quarterback basically in the 5th or 6th round sometimes. Like you're getting a Justin Herbert. So it's just like figure out a way that to attack these that you think is best. Tune into these shows. Eric writes a great strategy piece every week. So Yeah, these are a great way to get exposure to certain games or stuff that you normally would maybe fade on DFS or something like that. You can get your value on great players here. So, quick little plug for that.
All right, that's going to do it for us tonight. Make sure you check us out next week. I think Buying For will finally be back to take some L's.
Depends how his exposures look, I guess, after this week.
That's true. That's true. And also, I think we have a pretty fun show coming up for you guys on Thursday. We haven't announced it yet, but be in the Discord looking out for that. It's going to be something quite different that me and Buying For will be bringing you. So until then, we will catch you guys later. Peace.